Rev up your engines! Manual says, is the Lexus RX 350h as reliable as before? Is it a good buy? Well, sad but true, I have to say, no. The reliability of Lexuses is starting to go down some. I've had people bring me brand new Lexuses that within the first month of ownership, the check engine light came on, they had problems and stuff. You would never see that. The check engine light on my wife's Lexus came on for the first time in over 20 years about a month ago, and it was just a simple temperature sensor that cost me $25 at AutoZone. I screwed it in and it fixed the problem, right? But no, unfortunately, everything, the quality's starting to go down in a lot of companies. I guess the Japanese are learning planned obsolescence from the Americans, or, with all this coronavirus and they had a hard time getting parts, they're using sub-quality parts and stuff. I've seen Toyotas with melted mirrors. 2 years old, the mirrors are melted. Just ridiculous. And they say, it's a thermal event, so we're not going to fix it. It's a thermal event. It's outside in the sun. Whoop-de-doo. My Celica's been outside in the sun for, almost 30 years, right? Does it have melted mirrors? No, it doesn't. Brendan does gaming. Says, Scotty, I just bought a 91 F-150 with 5 liter for $2K with 66,000 miles. What are your thoughts? Well, man, I don't know if I believe a 91 only has 66,000 miles. But if it does, you got the deal of the century. Now, when they get that old, guys cheat. They'll go to a junkyard. They'll get a used dash, stick it in, or they'll run the speedometer back. That thing's dinosaur. It's a 91, so all that stuff can be fiddled with. I don't think I'd believe that's the real mileage. But if it is, you got the deal of the century, Sheesh, those old 91s can run forever. And you got the V8 5 liter. I mean, you got a phenomenal deal if that's really the mileage. But I don't know how you could prove that one. I've seen many people bring me cars like that. Once in a blue moon do they actually have that low mileage. Usually it's just fake. Leela Krishna says, Scotty, I got a 2006 Toyota Avalon for $3,400 and I spent $1,000 fixing it. Has 122,000 miles. Is it worthy? It has leaks from power steering and has an airbag open on the dash with a rebuilt title. You're $4,400 into it and it's got a rebuilt title and it's, an 18-year-old vehicle. I personally, it's the thing with me, I don't buy cars with rebuilt titles. That means the car was totaled by an insurance company, and there's usually very good reasons. Now, if you get lucky and it lasts you a long time, good, let's hope it does, right? It was totaled for some reason, and they totaled them because they say, hey, it costs more to fix than the car's worth. So, unless they screwed up, and I have seen people screw up. I've got people bought cars that had rebuilt titles on them, and there was nothing really wrong. They'd say on the insurance that the frame was bent, but somebody somewhere cheated and lied, and the frame actually wasn't bent. I know a guy that did that here in Rhode Island. He bought one cheap for like $15. He ended up selling for $35,000 later because he found out that, hey, look, the frame was never bent on this thing. Could have been a sleazy insurance writer getting people money for a wreck that didn't happen. I don't know. You never know why there's a rebuilt title, but generally it means an insurance company rightfully totaled it and it has a lot of problems. Janet says, my husband is stuck at the moment in his 2020 Dodge Ram pickup 3 hours away. It's stuck in park and the dial won't go out of park. Any idea how to fix it? Okay. That's why I tell people not to buy those Rams. They're crap quality and it's all electronic crap now, right? But have them try this because you never know. Disconnect the battery, both terminals, right? Then turn on the headlights. That will drain any residual power. Then, without touching the battery, get the two cables and connect them together. Not on the battery. They're away from the battery. Then, after about 5 minutes, put them back on and pray that reset the computer and it'll work. Also, maybe his electrical system just crapped out. He might be able to jump start it and get it back. Or at least jump start and get to an auto parts store where you could either buy the battery or if it's the alternator gone bad, put an alternator. Because if you don't have enough electricity, you can do that. Pray it's that, not some computer failure on those stupid things. They're not very well made. Domingo de los Santos says, Scotty, is a 2017 Outlander Sport a good SUV to buy? If not, why? The Outlanders can be decent, but here's the thing. Mitsubishi's kind of an odd car company. They don't make all that many cars, and they've often screwed up on a lot of their designs. I've had people buy Outlanders, and they love them. But on the other hand, I've had people buy Outlanders, say, with 110,000 miles on them. Within a year or two, the trannies broke, the engines had problems. They're not true long-term vehicles. Now, let's say you found one with really low mileage. I wouldn't have a problem there if it had 35,000 miles or something. But if you're looking at one that's got like 100, 120, 130,000 miles, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Take the Toyotas, Hondas, their stuff is so much better made. I'd have no quality buying one with 120, 150,000 miles because they're well made. As long as I checked it out, made sure it wasn't wrecked, flooded, stolen type stuff, right? Mitsubishi's, no. Now, only buy them if they're low mileage. Pickle Me Timber says they got an '07 GMC Sierra 4.8 liter. Makes a popping noise from the intake. It goes away when it's been running for 15 minutes. What could it be? Okay, it's backfiring inside the intake. Now, either you got an ignition problem, which makes it pop back in, or you got bad valves in the engine. So if I were you, the first thing I'd do, they're notorious for having engine problems, do a wet and dry compression test of the engine. Take the spark plugs out, and if you don't want to do it, pay a mechanic and see, are the valves worn? And if the valves are worn, it'll do that. They'll pop when they're cold, and then when they warm up, they get hot and they seal better. That means you need an engine rebuild. In that case, you got to decide, do you really want to spend that kind of money on a 17-year-old GM? I probably wouldn't. David Robinson says, have you seen the new Dodge Demon 170? It has a manufacturing retail of $100,000, but a dealership in Montana has them listed for over $200,000. They're only making 2,500 of them. Yeah, Dodge keeps saying, oh, we're only making so many of these, and we're only going to make them, and then the next year they make more of them. I wouldn't trust those guys as far as you could throw them, but that's how it goes. If you make expensive, fast vehicles, there's always greedy pigs out there that want to sell them for as much as they can, the law of supply and demand. And there's people that want to drive like lunatics. They have an awful lot of money and don't know what to do with their money, and they'll buy something like that. And it happens all the time. You know, I mean, there's people out there that are buying cars that cost $3 million for exotic cars. I mean, it's just how people are, you know. And they say if they get away with it, they'll continue to get away with it. That's why I tell people, if the price of new cars is too high, wait. Because if people don't buy their cars, they got to lower the price. Otherwise, they can't sell them. Look at old Elon Musk. Right? He's lowering the price of his Teslas. Guess what? Because he can't sell them, so he's got to lower the price. Don't buy, the prices will come down. D. Brown says, I got a 98 Mustang Cobra, 120,000 miles. I have a vibrating clutch pedal idle. Mechanic says the rear diff is worn and needs rebuilding. Sounds like a reasonable diagnosis? No, it doesn't to me, because your clutch pedal is vibrating, right? It's just sitting there. The rear diff isn't doing anything. So to me, it sounds more like you got an unbalanced problem with the clutch or the flywheel or the clutch pressure plate, because I got a guy with the same exact vehicle and he's working on his, and he's trying to have a hard time balancing the flywheel and the clutch setup that he has. I don't think it has anything to do with the rear end, because it's just the rear end's doing nothing when you're sitting there idling, right? It's just sitting there. I can't see how that would make your clutch pedal vibrate. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. Bischoff says, how is the Honda 1.5 naturally aspirated iVTEC engine offered in the Asian market? Those are excellent engines. Honda makes an excellent 1.5-liter four-cylinder engine. They've been making them for decades. And if you really take care of them, the 1.5 turbos aren't bad, but you got to change the oil a lot. They had some oil dilution problems in the beginning, but they fixed that, right? The 1.5 engine can run and run and run. Now, it's not a race machine, but it's a good transportation thing. I've seen Civics with those that had 500,000 miles on them, and they were still running fine. Max72284 says, what is the best beginner's motorcycle? I want to get a good beginner's bike. I'm looking at a Kawasaki Ninja 500R, Honda CBR 500R. Which do you recommend? You're talking beginners, right? All right. The CBR 500R and a Ninja 500R. R stands for racing. They can still go pretty fast. I would say get the Kawasaki Ninja 500R. It's a twin-cylinder motorcycle. And they're good twins. They're fun to drive around in. Being a twin-cylinder instead of four, it weighs a little bit less, a little bit easier to handle. That's what I'd go for if I were you. Start with a twin. It's got less horsepower. I'd say get the Kawasaki. Twins are fun to ride around in anyways. They're making a comeback. Well, the UAW president of the auto workers, Sean Fain, he gave out some typical bureaucratic baloney, empty promises for the workers on strike, and combined it with outright lies. What's really happening at that factory where the UAW was pretty much trying to force the workers to sign a deal that was bad for them. They all got to put on a good face, right? Form over function. In this country, it's all what it looks like, not what it is. So he's got to pretend he cares about the workers. But people, I'm not the only one saying this. Oh, empty promises. And then, he's kind of hiding while the UAW, the union itself, tried to push the workers into signing this crappy deal, which the workers rejected. Now, this included a cut in real wages of up to 10% and sanctioned 12-hour work shifts with no overtime after 8 hours. Collusion between the union and the companies. Now, obviously, it's kind of obvious. GM sued Chrysler, how Chrysler had bribed union officials, and it was proven that they did, right? But GM said, well, that was unfair competition for us. Well, the court threw that out, but they did say that Chrysler had sleazy deals with the union, giving them bribes and stuff. Well, sure seems like this is what's going on here, too. The Sean Fane, head of UAW, he gives lip service to the workers, and he says, I quote, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the 500 members of UAW Local 12 who are out in strike in Holland, Ohio. We stand in solidarity with you in the fight for justice. Yeah, that's what he says, right? But, of course, the union was trying to push the workers to vote for this stuff. He's the head of the union, so he's got to have some kind of involvement in that, too, right? You can't eat your cake and have it, too. It doesn't work that way. So, as usual, all talk, no action. The guy looked like he cares about the workers, but tried to get him to sign this crappy deal, and the people voted against it. So, now there's a little backlash. We'll see where it goes as time goes on. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.